Joining us now to break down the conversation surrounding lockdowns is Major Williams. He's a Republican running for the governor of California in 2022. So, Major, it's a real pleasure having you on the program tonight. I want to start more broadly with California Governor Gavin Newsom, because when we're talking about lockdowns, he's the most recent governor, for example, that was telling residents to stay inside, lock down, and then got caught going off to a Napa Valley restaurant and really living his life as normal. So I'll ask you more broadly, why do you think that California Governor Gavin Newsom needs to be replaced?
Well, honestly, there's inconsistencies in his brand of leadership, which is why I believe California is looking for an alternative to that brand of leadership. And it's contradicting. We know, he's been a part of a lot of hypocritical, suggestions or opinions and also mandates across his state. And as I tell everyone, for the first time in California history, we are unified in frustration. It doesn't matter if you're Republican, Democrat, whatever. We're all saying enough of Governor Gavin Newsom and his opinionated leadership.
And I think something you said there is spot on, because I'm not necessarily outraged that he's telling people to stay indoors to prevent the spread of coronavirus. I'm not necessarily outraged that he went to a restaurant. It's the hypocrisy. Him telling people to do one thing while he himself doing something completely contrary to the advice that he's telling a lot of hardworking Americans not to do, and it's coming to the detriment of them. I mean, I've talked to people firsthand who don't know how they're paying rent. They don't know how they're feeding their families. So does this speak to a larger issue, maybe not even just in California, but in politics more broadly?
No, I absolutely think it does. We're dealing with a pandemic at this particular point that's absolutely real. No one, especially from my side of the aisle, is saying that it's not real. But we know that it's been over politicized in this climate that we're in right now. And so many people are suffering because of people are playing politics with this particular pandemic. We know that the small businesses are the backbones of our entire state, but yet we are willing to take those small businesses and leave them astray. And also, if you've heard the statistic, more people actually leaving California and also businesses than ever before versus coming to our state. And that's a huge red flag for all of us to be concerned about.
And Major, when we talk about the state of California, I think a lot of people forget that it's either the #1 or #2 largest population of conservatives in any state in the country. If it's #2, it's right behind Texas. So do you think that the Republican Party on the national level needs to put a greater emphasis on California and not just concede to the idea that it's a blue state?
No, I think there should be huge emphasis on California, all the way down to the voting aspects of it as well. And also, we know that for a long time we've been sold a bad sell of goods, so to speak, in regards to the conservatism that exists here in our state. But also, as I said earlier, on a broader point, that it's not really about anything but Californians at this point, especially here in our state. I've traveled up and down the coast, and as I said, we're all unified in the F word, which is frustration, and people are just over it. They need a different brand of leadership, and we represent that with our campaign moving forward. And hopefully, other individuals that are going to step up and run in 2022 are going to carry that same kind of message, so we can restore our state, because that's desperately needed right now in the era that we're in right now politically.
And I think that message is resonating among the people of California because, for example, I look at some of the House races right now in Orange County, and it looks like Republicans are reclaiming a lot of those seats that went blue back in 2018. So clearly there's a disconnect between what's happening in Sacramento, for example, and what's happening in other parts of the state. Are you hearing something similar, that there are just big parts of populations, they may not necessarily just be Republicans, but they feel a disconnect with those who are leading the state?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the conversation is very universal in regards to people being frustrated, because it doesn't matter what side of the aisle that you own. People, Democrats own businesses, independents own businesses, Republicans own businesses. Kids want their kids, parents want their kids to go to schools. We're dealing with mandatory vaccinations. We're dealing with budget cuts. We're dealing with people being fired. We're dealing with the loss of jobs. And we're dealing with a huge homeless pandemic at the same time, a crisis here in California. So there's a laundry list of issues that we all care about, that we're truly concerned about. And me, as a non-politician, I've been propelled and feel like I've been called and pushed to go out here and fight for our state. And so many millions of other Californians are willing to do that as well, because we are tired of the same characters over and over and over again, for real.
And I think that's a message that goes beyond political lines, because when you're telling someone, for example, that they can't go to work and make a living for their family, I don't care if you're a Republican or you're a Democrat, you are going to have negative feelings about that, especially if you're in a place of financial uncertainty to begin with. So I think you're right. I think you're touching on a message that transcends political barriers. And I know that I'm going to be watching your campaign over the next couple of years, because there's definitely something happening in the state of California. So it's going to be an interesting campaign to keep an eye on. Major Williams, it's a real pleasure having you on the program tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.